What we're going to work on right now is working with percent. So if you can go to your foldable and find the percent section. And the first thing we have to talk about is how you write a percent as a decimal. And so if I have the percent 25%, how do I write that as a decimal? And so 25%, we think of it as cents. And so 25% is 25 cents. And so it's 0.25. If I have 8%, 8% is 8 cents. And so I write that as 0.08. And if I have 30%, 30% is 30 cents. And so I write that as 0.30. And lastly, if I have a percent above 100, like 105%, that's 105 cents. So that is 1.05. We have to deal with problems with percents. And if I ask you to find the percent of something, that is going to be when you multiply. And so find 36% of 72. Well, you first have to write 36% as a decimal, which is 0.36. Then you recognize that of means times, so I'm actually going to multiply and multiply by 72. And I'm going to put parentheses around it so I don't think it's another decimal. And so now you take your calculator and you do 0.36 times 72. And that gives you 25.92. And so 36% of 72 is 25.92. And you also, the next type of problem we're going to have is when we have things that make the price go up or down. And so let's focus on increases first. The first type of increase you can have is tax. The next is tip, inflation, and then something called markup. And what markup is when there's a business, they don't sell it to you what they bought it for. They mark up the price some so that they're able to make a profit. In addition to increases, we also have decreases. And the way that prices go down for decreases, the first one is sales, and then also discounts. But those are kind of the same thing. One thing to remember about increase and decrease for both of them is that you must multiply the dollar amount by the percent. That's the first step. Multiply the dollar amount by the percent, but make sure that your percent is written as a decimal. So you have to do what we did above and write it as a decimal. The second step is you're going to have to decide, do I add or do I subtract? So if it's an increase, you would add it. If it's a decrease, you would go ahead and subtract it. Another thing that's going to happen is sometimes you're going to have two steps because it has increase and decrease. And if you have a problem that's increase and decrease, you do the decrease first. So remember to do the decrease first. The last thing we have for interest or for percents is simple interest. And simple interest is I equals PRT. P stands for principal, which is how much money you begin with. That's your money. R stands for rate. You must write it as a decimal, so remember to write it as a decimal. And then T stands for time. So remember, when you're doing these types of problems, the first thing you have to do is you have to make sure that you write your decimal, or you write your percent as a decimal, and then you have to decide if you're multiplying, and then if you're adding or subtracting. If you need extra help with this, you're going to want to look in section B of your notes. This is the second unit that we worked on, so there's lots of examples on how to do this.